5-Minute Habits for Healthy Living. This week's habit is called Get Your Steps. Hello, this is Dr. Brian Morris, and welcome to 5-Minute Habits for Healthy Living, where you will learn the tools to practice a healthy lifestyle 5 minutes at a time. Life has become very complicated with a seemingly endless amount of health information at our fingertips. How do you know what to believe and what not to believe? On this podcast, I will sort through the maze of healthcare information and distill it into easy-to-digest, time-tested, evidence-based practical habits. I've been practicing internal medicine for 20 years. I went to medical school at Johns Hopkins. I trained at Yale, and I previously held a teaching position at Harvard Medical School. I currently practice medicine and hold a teaching appointment at UCLA Medical School here in Los Angeles, where I teach these habits to medical students, house staff, doctors, and of course, to my patients. Before we get to this week's habit, I'd like to remind you that the information contained in this podcast and at 5minutemd.com is intended solely for educational purposes and should not be used to diagnose, treat, or prevent any health condition or illness. This information may not apply to a specific health situation and is not a substitute for medical care by a qualified, licensed, board-certified healthcare professional. Please consult with your healthcare provider before implementing any of the ideas in this podcast or making any changes in your healthcare regimen. This week's habit is called Get Your Steps. I don't think it comes as much of a surprise that one of the habits is to get more physical activity. There are many studies that have documented the countless benefits of exercise. Most people think of the physical benefits of exercise, but we also focus on the mental and emotional benefits of exercise. Exercise boosts our memory, our concentration, our happiness, our discipline, and it also reduces anxieties and other forms of stress. Unfortunately, as a society, we have become less active over the last several decades. Many of us tend to drive rather than walk, especially here in Los Angeles. We tend to call or text someone who's down the hall rather than simply walk a few feet to have a face-to-face conversation. Sadly, we've become a much more sedentary society. The average American takes about 3,000 to 5,000 steps per day, where 1 mile is approximately 2,000 steps. This is far less than most of us should be getting. When I tell folks to walk 5 miles a day or get 10,000 steps per day, I typically get a facial grimace that lets me know that this is not likely to happen. However, it's not nearly as tough as it seems for most of us. The first step is to get an accurate pedometer that tracks the number of steps that we take each day. Why is this important? A study done at Stanford University showed that those who use a pedometer are 27% more active. They get 27% more steps each day simply by using a pedometer. In addition, in that study, those who used a pedometer had better blood pressure readings and were more successful at losing weight. Sound pretty good, huh? There are so many good pedometer options out there now, from the classic clip-on pedometers like the Omron HJ112 or the Fitbit One, but there are also pedometers worn on the wrist like the Fitbit Flex or the Jawbone Up or the Nike Fuel Band. And now there's even apps that will track your steps on your smartphone. These include apps such as Breeze, Argus, and Moves. With these apps, you can use your smartphone as a pedometer with the app counting your steps in the background. Some of these pedometers will also track other pieces of information, such as calories burned, which can be very helpful as well. You will often read in magazines that the goal for most of us is to average 10,000 steps per day, but I think it's better to first spend a few days calculating how many steps you're averaging per day. Once you have an idea how many steps you're getting per day, then you should speak with your physician or healthcare provider about what a safe, realistic plan might look like for you. For many people, the best option is to simply increase the number of daily steps by about 1,000. So if you're getting 5,000 steps per day now, the new goal would be 6,000 steps per day. And then you would try to get this number of steps per day for a while. And once you're comfortable getting 6,000 steps per day, then the next goal would be to get 7,000 steps per day, and so on. We will then spend time brainstorming how we might get more steps into our day. Perhaps we'll take the stairs. Perhaps we'll park the car a little further from our destination. Perhaps we'll walk the dog. Perhaps we'll go for a walk before or after work. Perhaps we'll have a few minutes during lunch to go for a walk. There are many ways to boost the number of steps that we take each day, but the first step is to get an assessment of how many steps we're currently getting each day, and then gradually increase our daily steps to get closer to our ultimate goal, which is usually 10,000 steps per day. And of course, making this process fun is a huge imperative. We're much more likely to reach our activity goal when we're having fun, listening to music, watching our favorite TV show, walking with a friend. Consider ways to make this process fun. Track your steps for a few days and see how many steps you're getting on weekdays or on weekends. And remember that about 2,000 steps translates to approximately 1 mile, depending on the length of your stride. And that burns typically about 100 calories, depending on how actively you're walking. 100 calories doesn't sound like a lot, but by getting that extra 2,000 steps per day, you will on average lose about 10 pounds in 1 year, as 100 calories per day translates to about 10 pounds in a full year, if all other things are kept equal. But let's start with simply tracking steps. Get your pedometer set up, either a clip-on or a wrist pedometer or an app, and once you've got your pedometer set up and you've measured this for a few days, and then document what you've been doing. It turns out that documenting the number of steps that you're getting per day, either on a smartphone or on a computer document or even in a paper notebook, can dramatically increase your chances for success. That was one thing they noted in the Stanford University study. Those who used their pedometer and kept a log of how many steps they were walking each day were the most successful. Once you see how many steps you're averaging, spend some quality time planning out how you can add in more extra steps to your daily routine, and do the best you can. Follow your steps each day. Work with your healthcare provider on a sensible, realistic number of steps, and see how your activity level progresses over time. Let's keep the dialogue going. Let me know what you think of this week's Habit for Healthy Living. Post your comments and your experiences on the 5 Minute MD Facebook page. Follow us on Twitter at Brian Morris MD, and visit us anytime on our website, 5minutemd.com. Let your friends and your family and your colleagues know about this podcast, and make sure that you are subscribed on iTunes. When you subscribe to the podcast on iTunes, you will receive new podcast episodes as soon as they are posted. Also, in the next few months, we will be posting bonus podcast episodes at 5minutemd.com, including special podcast episodes not available on iTunes. And if you're finding the information on this podcast helpful, we would really appreciate it if you would take a moment and stop by iTunes and leave us a review. Thank you so much for listening, and remember to make today count. I will see you at the next 5.